welcome back to another edition of Collider Jedi Council. I'm Christian Harloff, a.k.a. Darth Harloff, and this is the show that we talk Star Wars Jedi Council. Joining us, as always, he's back. Mark II, D2 from his journey in space, Mark Ellis.
I wasn't in space. I was in Kansas City. That's where I spent Force Friday. And actually, at one of the shows I was doing at the Improv, I actually had a fan bring the Millennium Falcon that you can remote control to the club, and I was introduced to it. So I had a great Force Friday.
Very
awesome.
cool. Well, someone who knows a little bit about that toy, he is Obi-Wan Kenobi, John Campia.
It was a very good Force Friday for me. Lots of great toys. I got my remote control Millennium Falcon. I'm going to get the X-Wing next, so I'm very, very pumped about that.
Awesome.
Have them chase each other around in the studio. That's going to be great.
I can't wait to. I mean, we're lucky that thing didn't have batteries. Otherwise, there would be no show today. Okay, let's get into it. So, for those of you who are returning, thank you for returning. For those of you joining us for the first time, I'll tell you how the show works. We have a few different topics that we go over, and the first one is simply Star Wars movie news. That is everything happening in the world of the movies. This could be The Force Awakens, or Episode 8, Episode 9, Rogue One, any of the anthology/Star Wars stories. We will talk about them. Now, normally, Mark will start and tell us what's going on, but I just got a little bit of a scoop that I would like to share with everybody too. So apparently, what's going? This is a rumor, but it comes from a pretty credible source that they are going. From what I'm hearing, is that we're at the end of episode 7. We are going to get a post-credit scene. Yeah. And the post-credit scene, from what I'm hearing, is going to be an extended scene with the teaser for Rogue One. Very similar to what kind of The Matrix did and what so where we're going to get, then they're going to start to make that a thing. Apparently they're going to release sneak peeks at the next film after every episode, like a teaser and a scene. And again, I wouldn't bring this up if I didn't trust the source that it was telling me. It's someone who has told me something before that has come to be true. Let's say that this is true. John, is this a good thing? Is it a cool thing?
Well, my first reaction is it wouldn't really be a surprising thing. I mean, look, before Marvel was doing their post-credit scenes, Star Wars was doing the big post-credit scene. Remember at the end of the trailer, silence, and then you heard which was the big tease. So this is not something that would be totally new or totally foreign to the Star Wars universe. It makes perfect sense. I mean, earlier on Movie Talk today, we were talking about how with Episode 8 going to start some principal photography here, this will be the first time in history that we have 3 Star Wars films in the pipeline, actually in some stage of production at the same time. We've got Episode 7 in its post-production right now. We got Rogue One already shooting, and then we're going to have Episode 8. What that means is if they keep that type of a flow going, then by the time Rogue One comes out, Episode 8 is going to have a scene that they can put in its post-credit scene. Right. But then, by the time Episode 8 comes out, the Han Solo thing will be ready to roll. This makes sense. This would be fantastic. I think the fans would love it. It makes sense. They would connect really well. I don't see any downside to this.
Mark?
I love this idea because, it keeps the Star Wars IV drip going even after you've just seen the movie. When you're walking out, and before when you had to wait 3 years to see another movie, now, even before you're out of the theater, you already start the gears turning as to what's going to happen in the next motion picture from Star Wars. And you shouldn't have to not do a post-credit scene just because Marvel's doing it now. Just because they were the first kids on the block to do it in every movie. I understand why DC wouldn't want to do that in their movies because they're more of a competitor with Marvel. But look, Star Wars is working for the mouse too. So I think it's a great idea. It's proven that it's a great marketing ploy. And just as a fan of Star Wars, I want to know what the next movie is coming out, and I want to know a little bit more about that. It's a great mechanism, in my opinion.
You know why they need to do it? Because of my friends in Vegas. And they look like, huh? What? I told my friends about when I was in Vegas. I was telling my friends about Rogue One. Oh, what's that? That sounds cool. Is that part of the Force Awakens? They had no idea what. They kind of heard about it. They're not in it like we are. Like people don't necessarily know yet what Rogue One is, and there will be a lot more marketing.
So you clearly need new friends.
I need new friends.
I mean, that's the first thing.
But they're married with kids. They live in New York.
Priorities.
But they're not,
Priorities.
Yeah, but they're not in this business the way we are. And there are some people, and not like huge movie fans or huge Star Wars fans, like maybe the people who are watching right now. But for the average fan that is going to be seeing The Force Awakens.
Oh yes.
Why wouldn't you do this? Because for people who didn't know about Rogue One, they're going to know about it. You're hitting what they're predicting to be one of the biggest movies of all time, which will be one of the biggest movies of all time. You would be doing yourself a disservice if you did not show a little bit of a trailer for Rogue One especially because you want to get more notice for that film.
It's strictly a promotional tool, though, as opposed to a storytelling device, which is what Marvel uses it for. Because Marvel's going to say, oh, here's something that's going to continue on to the next movie. It's not like they're showing something else from Skellig Michael Island that they're shooting on Episode 8. Maybe that happens between Episode 8 and Episode 9. It does not appear that's going to be the case for The Force Awakens.
I think it's tricky if they do that, though, because like even if they wanted to at the end of Episode 7, because they're already filming Episode 8, you could throw something in there. But I leave that to Marvel.
And that would confuse, and you want to make sure everybody knows that Rogue One is the next Star Wars movie coming out, not Episode 8.
That's exactly right. And I said leave that to Marvel. But okay, let's get into that's a scoop. So go ahead and tweet that out, share it, let people know that that's a rumor out there. Now, as far as the actual stories, Mark, what's happening in the world of Star Wars movie news?
Well, now we have just found out that our friends in the UK are going to get to see that scene from Rogue One a day earlier than us, as well as the rest of The Force Awakens. It was announced that they're actually going to be opening that movie over in the UK a day earlier than we get it here in the States. So it's going to be December 18th for all of our British friends. And even a day before that, it's coming out in France. So there might be some spoilers. You want to stay away from those 2 days that surface online if you're in America. But to our friends overseas, congratulations on beating us to the punch.
When I heard this, I was like, that's okay because we're going to see press screenings of it, so we'll see it and we won't get spoiled. But that's me being selfish. Like I think that everyone should get it at the same time because you talk about, especially Star Wars, which is doing this secrecy thing, and they're so tied into the secrecy thing. Stay off the internet. Like for those 2 days, if you want to see it and you've been avoiding spoilers. For those of you who haven't been avoiding spoilers and you don't care and just want to know how it is, fine. But stay off the internet for those 2 days. But congratulations to you guys in Europe. That's awesome. But I just think that they should have released it. This is one of those movies that should have been released everywhere at the same time. John, am I wrong?
Well, I mean, when I first heard about this, my first reaction was to have a welling up of my colonial indignation about, like, this is unfair, this is unjust. And then I reminded myself that we get a lot of movies here months before a lot of other countries get them. The notion that, I mean, yeah, I am really paranoid about now. There's going to be a 24-hour window there that you are going to have to stay off online. But then I think about, you know what? That's what other countries have to deal with all the time. Except instead of 24 hours, it could be 2 weeks. It could be 2 months.
But not at the level of Star Wars,
No, not at the level. But some big, major blockbuster films are still rolling out in some other markets right now that we've had for a long time. This is, look, I've been on record about this before. I don't understand fully, and it's because I don't understand it, all right? That's it. Why there is not a global release date for most films. I think you kill piracy that way. I think there's a lot of good things you do. I understand there's other strategic thing that goes behind promotion, how you roll them out in different markets. I get that, I really do. But I honestly feel that with today's technology, the era that we live in now, the world is smaller now than it's ever been. And especially for a film like Star Wars, I do feel it should be a global release date. They're not doing it. I'm not going to fault them for not doing it. And so, I echo your sentiments. Congratulations to our friends over there. You know what? They shot a lot of the movie over there. Yeah. Kudos, you're going to get it for a day earlier. So I celebrate that with you. Just don't let it happen again.
Mark?
I just booked my tickets for France, and I'll be expecting my French Rosetta Stone in the mail very, very soon. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. There's so many things in the world to get upset about. This isn't one of them, but I do agree. Look, sometimes you just have to stay off the internet for a little while. Whether you're DVRing something that you want to see as it happened live or this, just make sure you don't spoil the movie for yourself if you don't want to know anything about it going in.
Right, and if you're from Europe, don't be an a-hole and text your friends in the U.S. and tell them about what you've seen. Okay, what's next?
Well, something that we all got to see in unison was new promotional art for Star Wars The Force Awakens. And all of these different images, a lot of them came out in conjunction with Force Friday. The most notable one is one that looks like it could be a movie poster, whether it is actually the official movie poster or just one of the pieces of promo art. Had a lot of the new characters featured there, including Kylo Ren very prominently. You can see him there in the upper left-hand corner. You get a lot of the First Order. You see Captain Phasma. You see R2-D2 and C-3PO hanging out. And it just, even more than the Drew Struzan poster for me, this one really got me going about Star Wars and getting excited. So, Christian, out of all this new promotional art, what stood out to you?
Just how prominent Kylo Ren is. He's everywhere. I mean, he's on all these. I mean, most of these posters, and it's a big push on the First Order, more than even the heroes. You know, the Resistance. There's a little bit of Daisy Ridley and Boyega, but it looks like this is going to be Kylo Ren's story. A lot of it, like of course, we're gonna follow the protagonist, and we'll have a lead for the protagonist, but we're gonna learn a lot. He's not going to be the bad guy. There's going to be a lot of stuff with the bad guy that comes with it, the story, the history. He's going to be a character that fits for a long time, and it's so funny. You look at his saber. You remember the big stink about that saber?
Oh yeah.
When that day, how many people were bitching about it, and now everybody's running out to get one. Everybody wants to be Kylo Ren. Everyone loves these figures. I'm sure it's one of the highest selling. I remember everyone. I mean, Wendy and Dennis. Everyone thought we got to get the cross saber. Everyone wanted to get the cross saber when it was coming out because it's become now. He's already become an iconic. The movie hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
But John, what do you think about these posters?
I'll be honest with you, I don't see what the big deal is. I'm kidding. It moved.
Yeah.
It literally moved. There is a disturbance in my pants. I love
This is no longer a family show.
this. I'm telling you, I saw every single one of these frames. Just builds my excitement. The art. First of all, let's just talk about the art of them. They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
They're absolutely beautiful. That one shot of Kylo Ren near the bottom right, where he's down in that warrior pose, looks fantastic. The heroes, just everything about this is so irrationally excitement-inducing. Irrationally, because you're right. This is a movie that hasn't come out yet. We all love Kylo Ren already. I'm collecting all of his toys. I've got a ton of them in my office already. We're all talking about him. We're all looking at he's become iconic.
We already know who he is, and we haven't seen him do anything.
And the movie hasn't come out yet. These images all look fantastic. Every single one of them builds a little bit of excitement. Every single one of them is a little different from the previous ones. And you're right. That one observation you made is like, the really interesting about all these is that it's predominantly on the villains as opposed to the heroes. But even the villain ones look great. The one with Boyega up there in the top.
You mean the hero
there.
ones?
The hero ones. Sorry, the one with the Boyega up in the corner with you got Chewbacca, BB-8. That looks wonderful. That could be a standalone full sheet movie poster on its own. It's incredible. I love these images.
And real quick, we've been talking about it for a little bit. I think that's one of the first shots we've seen in Chewbacca. We actually see both of his arms, so he doesn't have the robotic arm as rumored. But Mark, what do you think of these posters?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I love that one with Kylo Ren, and there's another one that I think, the one over there in the corner that caught my eye when I saw it this weekend was Daisy Ridley and BB-8 standing there. She's just looking like a badass. Like she knows exactly what she's doing. She's collecting relics, and she's going to be able to use them too. She's going to be the heroine to watch in the new trilogy. And overall, look, I mean, all this artwork gets me excited. Remember, we saw Darth Maul and Jar Jar Binks were plastered everywhere before The Phantom Menace came out. And it's funny, I don't think people are forgetting about that experience. I think that we actually trust what Disney and Lucasfilm are doing is that they're not going to make that same mistake again with releasing a character that we don't all fall in love with immediately, like what happened with Jar Jar, or also releasing a villain that isn't going to continue through multiple movies. You want to make sure that if we all love Darth Maul and then we thought he left us a little bit too early, Kylo Ren ain't going to leave us anytime soon.
No,
I'm not convinced of that.
You think he can go out in the first movie?
Look, if I had to put money on it, right now, does Kylo Ren make it into the second film? I would say yes, but I'm not feeling really good about where I put my money. Like I'm feeling a little bit shaky about it. And that's the beauty part. We get really frustrated with JJ and his secrecy, but this is the beautiful part of his secrecy is that we're a few months out from the movie and we're still guessing, and that's fun.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I have a French buddy who just told me that Kylo Ren survives.
Yeah, he's already
seen the movie. Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Well, speaking of that secrecy, Anthony Daniels talked to The Guardian recently, and he was talking about a number of different things involving The Force Awakens. Anthony Daniels obviously is the one man who has played C-3PO in all 6 films and continues in The Force Awakens, and he talked about the secrecy, that he's not a huge fan of it. He got a slap on the wrist from Lucasfilm and Disney a little bit earlier because he mentioned that he dropped Simon Pegg, that he was hanging out with Simon Pegg on set, and he was excited to tweet about it. So he's not a huge fan of the secrecy, that reminding us we're just movies, but he understands as well. And he also talked about the differences between making a movie with George Lucas versus J.J. Abrams, where George Lucas, it was maybe harder for him to listen and collaborate with other people, as opposed to where J.J. has people that he wants to get involved in the storytelling process, and he has kind of a council around him that they can all come up with the best idea for the movie. So, Christian, you saw this interview. What was your takeaway?
I'm on two sides of it. One is like, shush. Shush. They pay your bills, man. Shush. Like you've been doing nothing. You wouldn't be able to do these conventions that you make and everything else that you do because if it wasn't for them. But on the same token, this is a guy that has been around, like one of the main guys that's been around through it all, and does all the conventions and does all the animations and does all the commercials. I mean, he does everything. He's been around. He's old school too, so he's been through. And this is also a time where the internet, like we were just talking about, it's out there, and it can. And I understand where Lucasfilm and Disney's coming from, but he's not used to that. He's used to being able to talk about being C-3PO and what's happening and all that stuff. So I do understand I give him some slack because of the old school. But then you also hear the rumors of how difficult he is sometimes and how he's kind of pompous and whether or not it's just put tape over his mouth and let Kenny Baker put the tape over his mouth. But I don't care either way. It's just I'm glad to see him as C-3PO and let him bitch about it. It's not going to change, John.
Well, I mean, I don't want to overplay how much he was bitching about it. I mean, it really wasn't that.
Right.
It wasn't that good. And honestly, if you were to give anybody other than George Lucas and say you had to hand out the title of Mr. Star Wars, to me, it's Anthony Daniels. I mean, not just because he's been in all 6 of the films. I think he might be the only person who's done that. I'm not totally sure about that. But when you go to see, I don't know if any of you guys had the chance to see this. Did either of you guys get a chance to see Star Wars in concert when it was touring around?
No, but I heard it was pretty great.
One of the most fun Star Wars experiences I had ever had. I even liked it more than seeing John Williams in concert at the Hollywood Bowl. And I saw Star Wars in concert 3 times. And what it was is a giant Philharmonica. They take over a whole hockey stadium, whatever, and they have giant screens, and they have this orchestra playing the music as things go on, and Anthony Daniels coming out in between each piece of music, telling the story of Star Wars leading into the next piece of music, and hearing the passion that Anthony Daniels has for this epic story.
Oh, he loves it. Yeah.
He loves it so much. And so I will cut him a lot of slack. I agree with you, though. Shush.
Yeah.
Just shush. Just a few more months.
It's gonna get tossed in a Sarlacc pit in the next movie.
And then you can talk all you want. You're gonna be interviews till you're sick. So shush. But I will cut him a lot of slack. It's like I said, to me, he's Mr. Star Wars.
But he's also a great ambassador for the franchise, and he always has been, like what you were saying. More so than that, I read this interview, and it was almost like they were interviewing C-3PO. Like, the guy is so inseparable from even that character. He's got some of the same traits where he's going to react to, like, oh, wait, what are you talking about? I can't even say this. What can I say? What can I say? It's fun to have that. He's not going to give away anything huge. It's fine.
Okay. Mark, what's next?
Well, and a lot of these stories that we get are from our friends over at StarWars7News.com. Not only are they a great aggregator of other things on the internet, they also release some stories themselves. So make sure you guys bookmark that on your page. Do people still bookmark stuff on the information?
I think they do. Yeah, they're special. You're right. Their special articles are pretty great.
Yeah, have at it. Ask Jeeves about it. And next up is on the official Star Wars site, there's been an awakening of sorts. There's been an announcement of a lot of new characters, droids, aliens, spaceships, all sorts of things have been updated to their database from The Force Awakens. There's a cool list of them you can get on StarWars7News.com. I mean, even planets, even bases like the Starkiller base has been added to that. So, Christian, you got a chance to look at all of these. Do any names stand out to you as being of particular prominence?
Who are the Guvian Death Gang Enforcers? That's what I want to know. I mean, who are those guys? I mean, there's so many. Sarko Plank, as we talked about him last week. From what I'm hearing now, and I haven't read it yet, there were 4 books that came out during Force Friday, which we'll talk a little bit about more as we get into the canon section. But in one of those books is Weapon of a Jedi, which is the Luke Skywalker tale. I guess kind of chronicles close to episode 7 or something along the lines. But Sarko Plank apparently is the main villain in that book. So we don't know. I don't know yet. I haven't read it. If he lives or dies in that, if he pops up in episode 7, where he goes. So I don't know if they're just registering him because now he is a character in that book or whatever it is. But it's really cool to see how Star Wars 7 put a lot of these in. The First Order interrogator droids, the Starkiller base itself. I love the description of Starkiller base, an ice planet converted into a stronghold of the First Order and armed with a fiercely destructive new weapon capable of destroying entire star systems. Awesome. Like that, you need to step up. Thank God they're not building another Death Star.
But this time it's going to be square.
Yeah, they're going to destroy star systems this time, and to be able to set up on ice planet. Is that Hoth? Mark, you see these characters. What do you think?
Yeah, well, one of the things that stood out to me was the vehicle was the Star Destroyer Finalizer. That sounds so cool that they're calling a version of Star Destroyer as the Finalizer. That's such a badass name. And then is it Constable Zuvio? I believe he basically sounds like Wyatt Earp for a frontier trading, which might be Jakku, it might be somewhere else, but it just sounds like another one of these interesting characters you might get to meet. Maybe they have a line or two, but it just shows how expansive this universe is. Really taking a cue from the original imagination of George Lucas's original trilogy.
John?
It's neat to look through the entries too and try to start. Once again, we're in this game of speculation right now, which is so fun as a fan, and figure out, okay, what has not been included and what does that mean? And which characters were included and what does that mean? Does that mean it's going to be prominent or not? That's what I get out of this when I start looking down these lists and trying to figure out, does this actually mean anything? Does this mean this person is actually going to have lines in the film when I never thought they would? That's the cool part for me. So I like seeing these things.
Or to use your example for next week, or is that person just going to turn into Hammerhead?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, if you want to go check that out, you can either check out the article on Star Wars 7 News, or you can just go to StarWars.com because they have all those new character updates in the database. Okay, Mark, what's next?
Well, Disney has announced that you can officially get the John Williams The Force Awakens soundtrack on the same date that the movie is released here in the United States. That would be December 18th, ladies and gentlemen. It's available for pre-order now. I think you can go ahead and pre-order it now, but you will get it on the day that the movie comes out. And I love that they're doing it like this because, man, did that last trilogy give away some spoilers.
Backfire City.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't have to title them so, you don't have to say, oh, this is a score where Qui-Gon dies. You don't have to do that, but that's what they did for the Phantom Menace. And I remember reading that 2 days away from seeing Phantom Menace. I'd camped out, I got my tickets, reading it, being like, oh, well, I guess I know what's happening to Liam Neeson.
Yeah, that soundtrack turned into LatinoReview.com. Like just from that one, you look at it, you're like, no. I completely agree with you. This is the move. It gets the golf club. You have to release it on the day of, because if you want to be spoiled on the day of, shame on you. Then that's because you can go get a ticket to the movie. I'm going to buy it right after. I'll probably buy it sitting in a theater on my phone after I'm done with the movie. After the movie and the credits are done, I'm going to get it, and I'll be listening to it in the car on the way home. I think this is absolutely the move, because maybe whether it be titling or anything else. And also for me, sometimes it would, not just the titling screwed me up, because I love scores. I mean, I listen to them all the time in my car. And why I like to get them after, obviously, is because then when I hear it, and it reminds me of that scene. I don't want to start creating scenes in my head from music that I heard, like, oh, what's it going to look like, and whether and then I've heard it so many times that it doesn't, now that I just remember it, I connect music differently. So if I'm listening to it as I'm driving here to Collider, and I hear, oh, I remember being there and hearing this song, oh, now they're using it for this scene. I want to know that when Kylo Ren comes out for the first time and it's Kylo Ren's theme, the first time I ever hear that music is when I see Kylo Ren. So I'm excited. I think this is the move. But John, what do you think?
Well, I remember vividly, like a few weeks before The Phantom Menace came out, and grabbing the soundtrack and listening to Obi-Wan cuts Darth Maul in half in B minor. And remembering, I wonder if this is telling me anything about the film. No. Honestly, though, what I thought they should have done, and this would have taken a feat of technology, maybe it's unrealistic, but what I would have thought would have been really cool is if Lucasfilm had partnered with like iTunes or Amazon or something like that, where you can get the soundtrack 3 weeks in advance, right? You can only get it digitally, and no track names are attached.
Yeah.
And on the day of release, they digitally send something out where the track names appear and
by
stuff
hologram.
like that. Yeah, via hologram across the holosphere. But I thought that might have been kind of a cool move. But no, this is a very good move. Like, I don't need to hear the music. Don't get me wrong. There are people out there who want to get their hands on the John Williams score now, and I totally understand why, and that's cool. But I also really appreciate the fact that they seem to be responding to the criticisms they've gotten in the past about, you're putting out these CDs, and it's like, I think was one not actually called The Death of Qui-Gon?
Qui-Gon's Noble End.
Qui-Gon's Noble End,
like
right. So, I mean, it's like, well, you have to have a balance there. And if this is the way they balance it for now, great, and maybe sometime later, technology will advance a little bit further, where they can just give you all the tracks and then send out a digital signal that then activates the titles of the tracks later. But for now, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that they won't release some tracks ahead of time, maybe the one or two just to kind of tease you or goose you a little bit, get you excited, but you're not going to see this full thing in its entirety before, and I think that's the right move.
Yeah, I do too. And it's funny because a Jedi Council fan had actually sent me this artwork that he had done, and it looked just like the back of a cover of John Williams Episode 7, and like the first 3 seemed like legit, and then he started saying, Han Solo dies. He started going through and like all these things that happened, and it was really clever. I got to find it again. If you're watching, and you can resend it to me, and I'll tweet it out to everybody. All right, Mark, what's next?
Let's talk Rogue One for a little bit. We might know the name of Mads Mikkelsen's character in the film. There was a poster that came out, a picture of a poster that the cast was autographing, and you see Mads Mikkelsen sign his name. Then underward, it looks like it appears to be him writing who his character's name is, the name Galen. Now, Galen sounds like a cool enough name. Then you remember that that's also one of the main characters in the video game The Force Unleashed, and his code name was actually Starkiller, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
So is that the character he's playing? Is he just playing another dude named Galen? Is he even playing a guy named Galen at all? Christian, what do you make of this autograph?
There's a lot that I make of this picture, by the way. First of all, Galen, is he Starkiller? No. He's definitely not Starkiller. He's not going to be that timeline. Everything that happened I love the character of Starkiller, even though he's a little bit too powerful. Love The Force Unleashed. Thought it was great and a great way to introduce the rebellion back when we didn't have the new canon and we didn't have rebels. I mean, it doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't work. The character of Starkiller was significantly younger. Sam Witwer is out there. If you're going to get Starkiller, Sam Witwer was Starkiller and was a great Starkiller. If you're going to make that character the same way. But I think it's a nod to the fans. I think it's, the same way they're putting the Starkiller base. I think it's a nod. What's more interesting to me, Kid Fisto.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
That's the one that people should be talking about. That's another Jedi that lived. Now, is that flashback or he made it out? And we get to see him. Like, that would be very interesting because it could be yet another Jedi that made it through and doesn't make it, but that's how we finally see how Fisto how he dies in this movie. Now, I wonder I don't think that the poster was for Rogue One, obviously, because I don't think Rogue One is going to be PG. I'll tell you that much. But Galen, interesting. Fisto, to me, more interesting. Mark, what do you think?
I think Rogue One will be PG.
No way.
Not a chance in hell.
PG?
No chance in hell.
Force Awakens certainly is
A war
PG.
film?
Force Awakens is not going to be PG.
No way.
Force Awakens is not going to be rated PG.
PG-13.
Not a chance. It's going to be PG-13.
No way.
All the other one was Sith. Sith was PG-13,
Yeah.
but the other two were PG.
I don't. Maybe
I'm not
Clone Wars.
The classic
Convinced of
trilogy
that?
was PG.
Yeah, but that was a long
But
time. That was different. Yeah.
But okay,
I don't think there was PG-13 when
How much would you like to bet that no Star Wars movie in the next 5 years will be PG?
I don't know. I have to think about it.
Now be careful with that.
Yeah.
Be
A non-animation.
careful with that.
Non-animation.
Okay, because they're animation, plus if they happen to do an anthology film of the world of the Gungans or anything like that.
Well, that's when you lose me as a fan. That's when then you better start looking for a new host of Jedi Council.
Welcome to Gungan World with Mark Ellis. Man, we got some Gungans on the boat today.
Today's segment of What's the Deal with Gungans?
That's the whole movie.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm obviously not as affiliated with the other canon as you boys, so I just defer to you guys. It's a cool name. I like that Mads Mikkelsen's in the movie. That's pretty much my take.
What about Fisto?
Sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard of the guy before.
Oh, he's been in the. You know him. He's been in the movies. Look here. You know that guy.
Now, while you're looking him up,
Yeah.
he was there. He got killed
Looks
by the
cool.
Emperor. He got killed by Palpatine, I should say. Was he not there with Samuel Jackson when they went to arrest him? And I think
He sure
that's-
was.
Yeah, I
He
believe
sure
that's when
was.
he died.
Yeah. So maybe he made it out.
Maybe, although that fight, that death scene. Anyway, here's a question I have, and forgive me because I was not really keeping up with this story. How completely sure are we that this is real? Was it? Did Mads post this himself on his Instagram? I'm just because I'm glad you brought the PG thing. The PG in the poster thing says to me, it smells a little bit of not being real. So I'm just wondering if we have confirmation of this. If we do, then that's great.
I was pretty sure that they did.
And I like
confirm.
what you said about Galen. No, this isn't going to be Starkiller. That's no longer canon and kind of stuff like that. But I'm glad you brought up the one point that what we've seen so far is Star Wars still giving little tips of the hat and little nods to old names like Starkiller Base. And if Mads Mikkelsen's character's name is Galen, then I think that's just because it's a good name and they're using it as a tip of the hat to the fans of the now discarded expanded universe. And I think it's probably a good way to approach it.
What poster are they autographing then? If it's like, why are you writing the character's name of a movie on a different movie poster than the one like? Is it because is that a Force Awakens poster that's rated PG? Then they're like, oh, let's get some Rogue One action on here.
Here's what it is. So actor Mads Mikkelsen revealed the name of his Rogue One character in the signature to Rebel Force Radio is the name of the show. To one of their fans, this guy JJ Good, I guess, had a poster that he had for him to sign.
There you go.
So
then you know what that might mean then.
That Mephisto might
have been an old autograph.
That's what I think it is. I think that maybe the voice of the Clone Wars or something too. That makes more sense now. So that doesn't necessarily mean Mephisto's in the movie.
Because if you look especially at the one that goes off the edge of the screen, that is a distinctly different marker. That's a richer silver than like some of the other color. So that would make sense.
That makes sense. So this kid, whoever the guy was that was collecting the autographs, wherever it was getting autographs from Star Wars characters, got Fisto, and now gets Galen. So that seems legit to me. You don't think so?
Did anybody see him actually autograph, or is this just a kid saying he got it? This is me just being pessimistic.
No, I get it. I understand.
Let's accept it for what it is and say cool.
All right, what's next?
I think I'll do $5. I'll do $5 on The Force Awakens being PG.
Force Awakens?
Being PG, yeah.
You're looking at him like he's a crazy person.
Can I do $1,000?
No, because I said 5.
How about?
I said 5. What kind of a mean human being takes a fun bet like 5 and tries to pay his rent with that? It's like it's just a fun bet at lunch. Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, look, it's a small child with an injured leg. Want to fight?
Darth Harloff, indeed.
How about a pizza for the Collider crew?
$5.
Come on. Don't be a weasel. $5.
Now you're pitting me against everybody else. Typical Sith move.
All right. So you heard it here. 3 pizzas for everybody. Okay. What's next?
I hope we're still friends at Halloween, which is the basis of this next story, because some costumes came out that are going to be Force Awakens inspired, because everybody's going to want to dress up as the new PG rated film, The Force Awakens, for Halloween. And you look at this picture, and even from this one picture and from other tidbits we've gotten, there's so much information about the movie that is coming out, not the least of which is actually about the lightsabers. Now, Christian, you saw this picture, you read this story on StarWars7News.com. What about the Halloween costumes are you most reading into the movie?
There's a lot of stuff going on here, for sure. And this is something, though, too, that you may want to fast forward 5, 6, 7 minutes into it too, because this could be potential spoilers from what. But look, it's on the character description, on the costumes, so we're going to read about it. So the lightsaber. We've been talking about the lightsaber, and it says wield the weapon from the Republic's destroyer and its savior. Both Anakin and Luke Skywalker battle with the blue lightsaber. Star Wars Anakin, Luke Skywalker, blue lightsaber is based on that elegant weapon, as Obi-Wan called it. The blade lights up, blah, 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 blah. And then it says it was the weapon that he used in training with Obi-Wan when battling Jabba the Hutt, and later when he fought Darth Vader at Cloud City, talking about Luke, obviously. It looks like they're really doing a focus on this saber. Every time we see John Boyega / Finn with a lightsaber, we said, that's it. That's the lightsaber. It seems to be confirming that for sure. But a lot of it that I learned was the Daisy Ridley stuff. The Daisy Ridley stuff about how she's like a great hope of the Resistance. She seems to be the greatest hope. This, to me, is going to change my percentage again when John asks this question at the end of the show. More and more, my theory, I think, of who she is starting to take form. But there was a lot that I picked up. But, John, you read a lot of these things. What did you think?
Yeah, well, the thing that I learned most, and I thought was the most surprising thing from the costumes and stuff like that, was that Captain Phasma is 3'4". I did not know that. The trailer gave me this perception.
Right.
She's, as it turns out, she's Wendy Lee's height. So, and I'm probably going to pay for that later.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to pay for that
Just
later.
deleted half your emails.
No, I mean, I want to be careful not to get too ahead of myself when looking at stuff, this auxiliary stuff that comes out, because I have been burned by that in the past before, where I've seen a costume or a new toy come out and read something on the box before the movie and then find out it really had nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. All I know is that I wish I had some of these costumes when I was a kid, because some of these look really great.
But there's nothing particular in the characters that you took any spoilers out of there?
No, nothing that really jumped out at me that made me want to take any of it really radically seriously. So I'm
okay. I did like the Kylo Ren stuff too, about the fact that as a member of the Knights of Ren, Kylo Ren is an associate of the First Order, the evil organization trying to take over the galaxy after the fall of the Empire. When he's geared up with his black and silver helmet, flowing robes, and three-bladed lightsaber, he's imposing as any Star Wars villain ever. Now it should be noted though, also in here, that Matt Martin, who I guess is the actual is part of Lucasfilm and the editor of most of this stuff too, had said that the costume company, took a lot of liberty with their description.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of it with a grain of salt. But Mark,
I'm reading all these, and it sounds like a model, like a fashion runway is describing it. Like, from behind a shroud of black robes, here comes Kylo Ren. He knows the Knights of Ren are one step closer to completing his mission on the catwalk.
It's actually Anthony Daniels.
in silk.
So I try not to read too much into it, but it does seem like, especially with a lightsaber, everything it is still in concert with what we've known, is that lightsaber is going to be recovered by somebody and it's going to change some hands in the new movie. So it seems like we are going to get that famous lightsaber again.
All right, what's next?
Coming up next is the character details that are revealed in the Force Awakens dialogue. Now, this is a very interesting story because some of the toys have sound bites from the movie. And so when you have Kylo Ren, you have Finn, you have Rey, whoever else, they're going to be saying things from the Force Awakens. And then people like us get a hold of it, and we hear these things, and we're trying to piece together, what the hell? Oh, my God, that could mean so. Oh, wow, this is huge. In particular of note, to me anyway, was that Finn seems like that stormtrooper where he's like, no, I'm not sure what I'm doing. He seems unsure of what's going on, and then all of a sudden he turns into a leader. And also Kylo Ren seems like the enforcer that we all feared he would be. And Captain Phasma, too. Don't sleep on her being one evil badass in this movie.
This is my favorite story so far, the one we've talked about.
I thought it might be.
It absolutely is. And I just love Star Wars nerds so much because IGN did the same thing that we all would do. And what they did was when IGN, John, I don't know if you know, like to see this interview, they actually took a microphone and interviewed the toys, which was so great. I loved it so much. But I want to kind of go over some of the dialogue that was said here. And again, let's start with Kylo Ren. Okay, so he's talking. For the first thing is I felt it too. He's obviously talking about whether that question that's asked by Snoke. We know who Snoke was talking about, right. I think.
Have you felt it?
Have you felt it?
Yes,
I felt it too. So you know what I've come for. Now that could either...
So I'll get to that in a second.
Okay, all right. So, we have you know what I've come for. We're either talking here about Luke Skywalker's lightsaber or Plagueis' staff, is my opinion there. Together we will destroy the Resistance and the Last Jedi. Assume he's talking to Snoke. Don't fight it. Don't know who he's talking to, but it looks like he's trying to convert somebody. You know you can't. I'm immune to the light. Oh, I love that comment. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Now, this could be Luke that he's meeting up with. This could be Han. It seems like I'm meeting with the old characters. And then this is the one that I really said, well, wait a minute. Is it true you're just a scavenger? I think that obviously, from whether they're cousins, whether they're brother and sister, he's talking to Rey, and he can't believe that this once Force-trained equal of his is now a scavenger. Like, he's looking down at her. And then lastly is, again, that weapon is mine. Is he talking about the saber or is he talking about the staff? That's what I took from Kylo Ren. There are other things that Finn said, or Phasma. You hear this dialogue, John, from these characters. What stood out to you out of the dialogue that you've heard so far?
Well, before we get into that, I wanted to go and get my friend Star-Lord here, who sits in my office. Now, I don't know what he's going to say, all right? But I'm going to run off a couple lines here. Hopefully the mic can pick him up when he does it. So let's try this. This is a toy from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Don't mess with my friends.
Okay, what do you notice about that line?
Never happened in the movie.
Never happened in the movie. Let's try another one.
That's going to wear real thin, real fast.
Once again, not in the movie. Let's try it again.
Oh, you got the wrong guy. I'm not with them.
Once again, not in the movie. One last time.
This ain't funny, Rocket.
I don't think that was in the movie. There are a couple lines that he does, because I shouldn't admit to how much I have played with him. But he does say some lines that are in the movie. A lot of times what I gotta understand, I've learned this because my wife works at Hasbro now, is that these toys are like in production a year before the movie ever comes out. And they have these voice actors going in sometimes to do their voices on these toys before they've ever been on set to actually start shooting the movie. And what you end up getting is a lot of lines that they put in there that sound like they could be in the movie, and maybe they were in some form of a script at some point, or maybe they never were in the first place, and they make them say some of the stuff. Because of that, I would hesitate to put too much stock in anything any toy says. Now, the one thing that I do find interesting, that one line as a true, you're just a scavenger. Right. That's an interesting one. I believe that points to them being siblings. It almost sounds like a line of disappointment.
Right.
Things like that. That's cool too. But because of my experience with my good friend Star-Lord, I'm reluctant to put too much stock in anything that actually comes out of the toys.
Yeah, I mean, my take was that a lot of those lines they sound like good jumping off points for if you're actually playing with the toys, which clearly all of us here do. I try not to read them too much, to be honest with you, because I don't want too much spoiled from the movie, and I think that's going overboard. If you're actually listening to the toy and it's telling you real dialogue from the movie, I don't want to know a lot of that stuff. Yeah. I will contest you on one thing, though, is that Kylo Ren is saying, or you know what I've come for, and you're assuming it's either the lightsaber or the staff, but we also have seen Darth Vader's helmet, so there's a chance he could just be... Now, again, I don't know that helmet has any mystical powers other than just it looks nice in your man cave, but it might have some sort of... That's why he came to get Darth Vader's mask specifically. So
Can I throw this out there? The one thing I don't think any of us have considered as a possibility when thinking about, okay, what is Kylo Ren after? It's always, we just assume it's a thing. What if it's a her? What if he is specifically looking for her? I mean, that's something that I don't think, I know myself as well. I have not really consideed that possibility.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but I just think because it just seems more and more that they're pointing to these relics and scavenger, such a big word, and that lightsaber seems to be popping up everywhere. I would say if I was to guess, if I was going to put like a ranking or a percentage, you'd have to put the highest percentage on the lightsaber, I would say, and then underneath I'm saying the staff, because they're really putting that staff out everywhere. But yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with this dialogue, where it goes. I do think some of it is going to turn up, especially Kylo Ren stuff, but some of it you never hear of it except the toy. Okay, so this is the part of the show, and there's a lot of it this week. It is simply known in this show as What's the Deal with Canon? Now, if you don't know what canon is, this is everything that connects the Star Wars universe to the movies. This is the novels, the video games, the comic books, the toys, anything that links back into the movies. We will talk about it here. And there was a lot happening with canon this week. And one of the stories that I didn't get a chance to put to send to Mark, so I'll let you guys know, there's two things here. The first one is that we've been talking about it for a long time, is that Star Wars Uprising, the mobile game, just released last night for the U.S. It's already been out. Again, Europe, gets it a little earlier. But we just got it here last night. I started playing it. I think Wendy started playing it and loves it. I started playing it for a little bit, and I really not enough I can review any of this storyline so far, but I'm excited to play it. It's on there just to let everybody know. It seems like people are enjoying it. I know that, and I think that it was /Film that put out an entire, basically what we know now from all the Journey to the Force Awakens stuff that has come out, like all the novels, the game, everything that they know about it, they put in this really fascinating article. I read it last night. It's great. And like I was reading, I'm like, well, how did I miss that? And I realized I haven't read everything yet, everything they have, and I haven't played this game because there's a lot of stuff that they took from this game. Go over there and check that out, because that was a really good article, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the Jedi Council viewer who sent that to me, but thank you. But for that game, I'm start playing. I know that you'll probably just wait to hear from me, right?
I rely on your word when it comes to reading books or playing video games.
Right, John, are you going to get the mobile game?
And intimacy with women. I have got it actually. I started playing the game.
So it goes where? Gross.
Right.
I actually started playing it yesterday.
Okay.
Not really taken with it yet.
Gameplay, no, but story?
Neither really
okay.
so far. But I probably played about an hour.
Okay.
So I am certainly not done with it yet. I'm going to give it a couple more days. I'm going to play around with it a little bit more, see what else I can cover from it. But I'm just going to say it's not like one of those games that you sit down with, you play for 5 minutes, and you're just hooked. At least it wasn't for me. So, but there's something there.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep trying for a few more days and then decide what I think.
All right, Mark, what's the first official canon story?
Well, something I won't take anybody else's word but my own on is trading cards, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's sports or it's Star Wars. Topps released a new checklist of their Star Wars cards, and a lot of them involve characters from The Force Awakens, and they give away some juicy tidbits as to what might happen, particularly in Act 1. Of note specifically is that there's not a whole lot of resistant forces that seem to figure into Act 1. Rey Takes Off is the name of another card that suggests that maybe she is launching the Millennium Falcon, and then there's also a card called Master of Evil, most likely referring to either Kylo Ren or Supreme Leader Snoke. Christian, you saw the checklist. You looked at this awesome artwork on the cards. What was your take?
My take was the same thing that we were just talking about before, honestly, with the posters, that everything, they're really doing a heavy push on the First Order. It's everything I see First Order, Rey, Finn, no classic characters yet, no Snoke, no Donald Gleason. There's none of that stuff, and it's all Kylo Ren. They're focusing on who they want you to focus on right now. There'll be a second wave of all this stuff when they're ready to, and I think that wave will probably come out after the next trailer, because maybe there'll be some more reveals in that trailer, and that's when the second wave of toys, and it's brilliant. I think it's smart, and you're going to see another midnight probably rush of people running into the stores to get the next wave. But yeah, that's what I take away from the cards. What about you?
Is Han taking a leak? Where is he? Because right there's a big picture of Chewbacca, and then Chewbacca's in his normal seat, and then somebody else not named Han Solo is flying the Millennium Falcon, and it's Rey.
Does John owe me a steak? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying Han's dead, Christian. I'm just saying he probably is an older guy now, and he has to take a pee more than he used to.
Or he's dead.
Lest we forget that in every Star Wars movie, at some point, he gives over controls of the ships, and he goes and either fixes something or mans the turbo guns. That's where Han is in those pictures.
They look pretty sad.
They're intense. They're intense.
He could be manning the turbo guns.
That's exactly what I think he's doing. Now, I am avoiding these cards like the plague. I mean, I'm just looking at the graphics. They look great, look super and everything like that, but I don't want to look at a card and see Poe Dameron proposes to Rey.
Right, you don't want to see Qui-Gon's noble end.
Yeah, I don't want to see what we were afraid of in the soundtrack, so I'm kind of avoiding these cards.
And it should be noted that, again, a lot of these things are Act 1, and it was made, everybody's made aware this is Act 1, and I hope that you don't see Act 2 and Act 3, because it's going to be hard for us to not look at those.
So they kill Han in Act 1. That's what Christian's saying. Christian's saying they kill Han in Act 1. They got him back after 20-something years, but they're going to kill him in Act 1.
No, he's not going out.
If they kill Han in Act 1, it should be rated R.
There's no way they're going. Yeah, because of everybody cursing in the theater.
Damn right.
Wouldn't it be awesome if, the first scene, he gets back on the bridge of the Millennium Falcon, comes through the doors, it's our first exposure, it's him and Chewie's like, Chewie, we're home. And then a bounty hunter shoots him from behind in the head, and he's out of the movie.
Yeah, you riot in the theater. So, and there's more stuff that came out Force Friday also, Mark, right?
I mean, there's so many cool toys and everything else, but I think one of the headliners would have to be the Sphero BB-8 that rolling around. We even had one in the office here, Collider, that was nipping at my heels, and it's showcased right next to the Stormtrooper, and it really is cool to watch. It's tiny. It's like the size of a baseball. The base is, then the tinier BB-8 head, but it goes around. There's an app that you can play with that you can actually project. John Camp the other day was projecting himself as a hologram on the app, and there's a lot of cool things you can do with this BB-8.
I thought it was so smart. Sphero is a company that made this this toy, and I thought it was so smart what they did, because when they saw BB-8 for the first time, they were jumping up and they were brilliant, because they were like, wait a minute, we can turn our creation into BB-8, and they got on the phone with whoever. Congratulations and bravo to whoever made that phone call and made it happen, because that was one of the most talked about toys throughout all of Force Friday.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. And I think it was a brilliant, brilliant strategy by the people at Sphero. So congratulations to them, because it's pretty cool. But out of all the toys and stuff that you saw, John, that happened, because you were there, you went to Force Friday, right? You were there on.
I was only in line for a few minutes to hang out with Simon Kimberg and
bailed?
Sam Whitworth, and then I bailed.
Were they on sale?
Yeah, they were on sale. No, because I needed to come back here to work at 11:30 at night. My favorite toy, it's a split between the two. The remote control quad Millennium Falcon chopper. I'm having a lot of fun with that. I'm playing with that a lot. But the BB-8, it's not just cute. It's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Especially when you get into the controls of it and you figure all the different types of things you can do. It is adorable, the way it talks. You can set it into like a patrol mode where it goes around, then you can take control of it. The hologram, which you were talking about, capability of it is really fun. Looks great on your phone. Looks even better if you do it on a tablet, though. If you do it with a tablet, controlling with the tablet, it looks even better. And I've got a lot of the Pop toys.
Yeah.
Big fan of all of them. But I probably got to say the BB-8. I hate to sound stereotypical, but it's probably my favorite one so far.
Awesome. Okay, what's next?
Yeah, so we have Aftermath, Christian. Aftermath is the new novel that came out. It's officially the first novel that is released in the journey to The Force Awakens. The author is Chuck Wendig, and it takes place immediately after Return of the Jedi. But Christian necessarily doesn't follow some of our heroes from the original Star Wars trilogy. It focuses more on the Empire and what's going on after the fall of the second Death Star. Did you like the book?
No. I mean, just listen. I'm so bummed, man, because I was looking. If you've been watching this show, John and I have been raving.
We've been losing our minds.
Raving about this. This is the most anticipated book maybe ever. I mean, yeah, thank you, Paul Kemp, for giving us Lords of the Sith, and thank you, Christy Nolan, for giving us Dark Disciple. Sorry, guys, but the one we really, really cannot wait to sit down and like we're watching a movie is Aftermath. What happened after Jedi? And it's just a letdown. It's really a letdown. And I was ranking, and I think that I kind of Phantom Menaced myself with the book too, because when I first finished it, I'm like, oh, it was all right. And I was kind of ranking it in my order.
I think we coined that phrase. I think we're the ones who coined that
Phantom
phrase.
Menace.
We Phantom Menace
and then
something.
meaning that I think I told myself I liked it a little more than I did, and then I started kind of marinate on it, and as I was reading it, thinking about it more, I think that if you would have given Mark Ellis the job of writing Aftermath, okay, and you would have told him, the story group would have said, we need you to hit these points. Here's where the universe is. Everything that he wrote about the story points that the story group gave him, I would like, because and that's what Chuck Wendig did. He just gave I liked the stuff of knowing what was happening and where the Empire was. Like I wasn't disappointed about any of the story points as far as where the Empire was and what they were doing and that type of stuff. That wasn't what let me down. I didn't love Chuck Wendig's writing, and it was kind of, to me, my problem with Kevin Hearn in the last in what's the Jedi, oh my God, I keep saying
Heir to the Jedi?
Heir to the Jedi, thank you. Heir to the Jedi. It was the same problem I had in the first few issues of Star Wars comic, because it felt like someone trying to write Star Wars, and it didn't feel like when I read Paul Kemp's Lords of the Sith, as you know when you were listening to it.
God.
You don't feel like you're reading or listening to it. You feel like you're watching a movie. You're there. No one else is around you. You're not sitting in a car listening to it. You're not sitting there. You're reading it. You're in that world, and it didn't, like, the stay on targets. He throws in stay on target, and the lines didn't just flow. It didn't feel right. And one thing I have to say that I read his response, Chuck Wendig's response to the bad reviews, and what he said in his blog was the reason why he thinks the negative reviews were that he introduced 2 gay new characters. I had no problem with that. That's what he thought. Some people, I mean, me personally, I had no problem with that.
Mark did,
yeah. He hasn't read it.
I don't read. How dare you say something like that?
No. And the other thing was that he felt that too many people were comparing it to Timothy Zahn, and that's why they didn't like it. Again, and because there were new characters in it, and that, again, not the case. And I'll talk about this in a second. This book has brand new characters in it that I've never heard of. Shattered Empire has brand new characters I've never heard of, but it fit into the world and surrounded it with characters that I did know briefly, just so I knew that they were part of this world and and it didn't feel like they were just writing. It was just throwing in these little quips to make me feel, oh, this is still Star Wars, guys. And there's some lines, it felt like I was watching a prequel. Honestly, there are parts where it was like they have this droid, this old battle droid, which I get what he was trying to do, but anytime you threw Roger in there, it didn't work for me. It threw me back into the stuff I didn't like about the prequels. I just didn't like the writing. It had nothing to do with Timothy Zahn stuff, because Timothy Zahn did connect the world and what happened post Jedi. Even though Luke was a prominent character in the story, he didn't have to be. But John, you didn't even finish the audiobook. I know you couldn't do it. So what were your problems with it?
I couldn't do it. Like, if you've been watching the show for any period of time, like I've been so excited for Aftermath, man. I mean, just hearing about it, I was excited about it. Then when we broke the poster, the cover for it on Jedi Council, like, however long ago that was, how excited we got for this. And so anyway, we were, me and my wife and a couple friends, we were going to Vegas for, which American holiday was it just now?
Labor Day.
Labor Day.
We celebrate having jobs by drinking and not going to work.
Right.
So we were spending our Labor Day weekend. We were going to Vegas, and we thought, what a great time to start listening to Aftermath. And we were driving and listening to it. And my wife loves this. My wife loved Lords of the Sith and all that kind of stuff. She's really into audiobooks. She's burning through an audiobook a week right now. And we were all excited to listen to it. And after about an hour, we were like looking at each other. It's like, and then we kept listening. When we were about an hour outside of Vegas, I just started tuning out. And by the time we got to Vegas, it's like, we're not listening to this on the way back. I just gave up on it. And now, look, one of the things I really don't like when it comes to movies or any type of media is when the creator of that media, be it a movie or a book or whatever, decides they're going to tell me why I didn't like it.
Right.
Like, just shut up.
Right.
I mean, look, books, like anything else, are subjective. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean it's not good. Just because Christian didn't like it doesn't mean it's not good. Just because a bunch of people didn't like it doesn't mean it's not good, or doesn't mean that it won't appeal to other people. That's fine. That's great and that's groovy. I'm sure Aftermath has its fans. I'm absolutely certain of that. I am not one of them, though. I'm also very certain of that. And to come up with these excuses of saying, well, you just didn't like it because there's gay characters. No, Lords of the Sith had a gay character in it. The first openly gay character a Star Wars thing has ever had, Lords of the Sith, blew my mind. Had no problem with that. Also, Lords of the Sith, Tarkin, neither one of them tried to be Timothy Zahn. I never once felt like any of those books felt like they were attempting to have the feel of Timothy Zahn.
Well, I think he's saying because it was the first post-Jedi one.
Well, no,
right,
I understand
right.
that too. And the new characters, no, that had nothing to do with it. Christian really loved New Dawn, the first book. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of New Dawn myself.
I liked it a lot.
But a lot of new characters in there, and he liked it. It just, from the disco battle droid that
Roger.
him,
Yeah.
I could tell what the next 30 minutes of dialogue was going to be between this kid and his now returning mother. It was just like cookie cutter out of every single one of these scenes we've ever seen ever.
And that's where he comes back to the writing. I mean, it really comes back to the writing, because there is a lot of cool stuff with the story there. The characters weren't developed enough, because I will say, I think Max von Sydow is in this book. I think.
I still don't know that I agree, but I could totally see why.
Well,
you
here's
think
the reason
that.
why. I'm going to give you a brief spoiler here for you guys, and this will only be about 2 minutes. So, there's a character named Sinjir, which is an ex-imperial who was in Jedi, escapes to this planet of Akiva, and he's there, and he's just trying to get away from it all. And the reason why is they keep the rebel pilot you were referring to, John, the mother, keeps referring to him later on as the tall man, the tall man, the tall man. Max von Sydow is 6'5", and also can be that witty. Can be and lines up age-wise from where we are
years later now
in Akiva. So it's possible, because I know that they also, the other thing that Chuck Wendig did, and I don't know, to be fair to him as well too, we don't know how much the story group said, we'd like you to cover these events and these characters, right? And how much he went on his own liberty. We don't know, because Greg Rucka, who wrote the first issue of Shattered Empire, might have gotten all the cool stuff. Who knows?
Absolutely.
So I don't know. So I haven't talked to Chuck Wendig. I don't know. But as far as development of those characters went, I didn't really care about anybody. The only characters I cared about were Sinjir, who I just told you about. I want to learn more about him. Ray Sloan, who was the admiral, who I were introduced to in New Dawn.
In New Dawn, yeah.
And I'd like to see more with her, because there's a cool reveal at the very end of the book that I don't want to spoil. It's very interesting. I thought it was a great reveal, but it happened way too late. But that really kind of ends with those two, because he throws these intermission things that happen in between the stories, the main story, and you find out each planet what's happening. That's something on Jakku, something on Tatooine, something. I mean, and again, a little bit of a spoiler here. Han Solo and Chewie are in one of them, and then they're gone, never to come back. Wedge, who we were sold on that this was his story, we thought, he's laid to waste. He's in and out.
Not literally.
No, he's not dead, but he's in and out, and he's not a prominent character. So
let me ask you guys this, though, because here's the big question, and my heart breaks for you two investing this time and not enjoying the writing or the literary flow or whatever. But as somebody who is excited about the journey to The Force Awakens, where this book leaves off, are there characters you're like, why is that guy in here? Or do you not like the actual story that took place? Is it enough of a leaping off point for another book? Or are you like, why are we starting off with this at all?
Well, this is supposed to be a trilogy of books. So I think that they either have to get a new author to do 2 and 3, or they have to have Chuck go in a different direction. and haven't really developed characters too, because the structure of this book to me felt a bit sloppy. But as far as again, like I said in the beginning of the review, I liked where the Empire was and where they're going and how scattered they are and the form and where Mon Mothma is and it's confirmation that there is a new republic, that there are things absolutely in this book that are cool and information to find out. And again, referencing that Slash article that I just mentioned before, they take a lot of information that they found from Aftermath. But again, I don't know how much of that was the story group saying, make sure you add this so they know.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like I'm bashing on the book. Look, it's just clearly it didn't work for me.
Right.
Clearly it didn't work for Christian. But I did read it, and I felt that this could be for some people. Like, you may enjoy this book, and I think that's great if you do. But going back to what you were saying, I think it's the same mantra that we've been saying all along. None of these books, none of them, are required reading.
Right.
Like, there's not one of these books that you have to read in order to be able to understand what's going to be happening in Star Wars The Force Awakens. Not one of them. They'll give you some cool behind-the-scenes stuff, give you some nice stories behind, and for instance, I didn't need to read Lords of the Sith, but man, am I glad I did. It was just awesome. That's what you want these books to be. So if you decide to skip it, don't worry, you're not hurting yourself for further down the line with other stuff going on in Star Wars.
All right, Mark, what's next?
Well, the last book I read was The Truce at Bakura. However, I have put my nose into some of the Star Wars comic books, and that's the case with Shattered Empire #1. I had the chance to check out Christian's copy moments before we just went to air. And man, this is a really cool story. You want to talk about something that takes place immediately after Return of the Jedi. This takes place during the end of Return of the Jedi. We get to see some of the fallout from the party, including one character that may have been conceived on said party, during said party, after said party, and then we had a little mission afterwards. So, Christian, what did you think of Shattered Empire?
What did you think, first of all? I want to know what you thought overall.
I thought it was cool. I like the story that how there's now fragments of the Empire, and we have them on the run, but we want to squash them. We want to totally end this fragment. We don't want to leave Endor and have some remnants of the Empire able to rebuild. So, overall, I thought it was a nice setup. I was worried that it was going to they were going to tug on your heartstrings too much with maybe killing characters off a little too quickly. Didn't happen in this one. I still have that fear going forward. I have a bad feeling about a character, but overall, I like the story.
I loved it. And look, again, to be fair, this was one issue of a 20-page comic book compared to a big novel. Mm-hmm. But that being said, this was the story that I wanted from Aftermath. This is where I wanted it to go, because this is my example. It really follows two new characters in this world that we know, but it still gives you information about where we're going, what's happening with government. We see some classic characters, and they're not just thrown in there for the sake of being in there. Han Solo experience, Lando, Luke, they're all in there, but they don't have to be front and center. I don't need them to be front and center because I'm following these characters. Like Mark said before, there was a big reveal in that going, oh, wait a minute, so that's going to be someone that we meet down the line. And to go off John's point before, as for what he said, well, you don't have to read these things at all and you won't be lost. I agree 100%. But what I will tell you, though, is by reading all of these things and everything, I watch the movies differently now, in a good way. I know so much more about the characters and so much more about the history and the world now of this new canon, and I think what is a benefit from it. I'll watch Return of the Jedi differently now that I know about this new character is actually flying in there as well, too. It's a lot of interesting stuff, but that's my take on that. But, John, did you get a chance to read any of Shattered Empire yet?
No.
Okay, you will soon. Okay, next.
Great job. Thanks for helping us out. There might be another issue you want to take a look at in December, because Star Wars, there's going to be a special edition C-3PO comic book, so you get to finally figure out what the hell happened to his left arm. Why is it red, if Anthony Daniels doesn't spoil it for everybody first? So that comes out in December, Christian. You're going to look forward to a C-3PO comic book.
I want to say no. But the thing was, I was going to say that about Lando. Okay, how fun can Lando be? Lando's been really giving great new story bits and information about the Emperor and Sith artifacts and stuff, too. So who knows where they're going to go. But I actually think that in this Weapon of the Jedi or another one of these novels, I can't remember which one it was, you actually find out how C-3PO got that red arm. I haven't read it yet, but I heard you actually do in one of these newer novels that came out.
Ooh, intriguing.
Yeah. So I'll be checking it out. All right, next.
We have the Lost Stars preview, as well as Smuggler's Run, Weapon of a Jedi, and Moving Target.
I think Moving Target is the one where you find out the arm Yeah, that's where you find out the arm. And then Weapon of a Jedi is a little bit more of where we find that character that we were talking about last week.
And these are more young adulty kind of
well,
books, right?
The young adult one is the Lost Star Wars one, which I'm going to talk about in a second. That's the one that the other ones skew a little younger. Like I was looking at when I stopped by, when I did go to look at the toys and stuff, I went and I saw it and I looked at the reading. It's for younger kids, but you still get story bits, so I'm still going to wind up checking it out. But I got to tell you guys about Lost Stars because I went to the store to go check out toys and stuff too, and I saw this book. And I stopped. I go, well, they're not promoting this thing at all. I mean, Aftermath's getting all the love, and they're not really. I mean, because how could it be? And I remember when we talked about this, when I initially talked about what the story was going to be, and it was Star Wars young adult novel. Like, I don't need Twilight in my Star Wars world. I just no thank you, right? But then you know what? I'm going to check it out because I heard good things about Claudia Gray and her writing too. I'm 16 chapters in right now, okay? And I'm going to start, and I'll do a full review on it when I can. This is my second favorite novel out of all of the books, hands down. Because just a bit of a preview of what it is. It's these two characters, these two kids who grew up on this planet in the Outer Rim, and they want the Empire takes over their world, and that's all they know. And they want to be part of the Empire. They want to be pilots. They're looking at the TIE fighters. They run into a very familiar old character, and then they both get stationed on Coruscant, and they grow up together, and they train together, and all this stuff happens. And the events start to take place like between 5 to 8 years before Episode 4, through Episode 4, through Episode 5, through Episode 6, and then up until 7, which I haven't gotten there yet. But I'm finding myself just turning the pages going, okay, the events of that lead to the, wait, that's the guy that did that? I'm feel like it's going back to what I was saying before. I'm watching a movie, I'm not reading a book. And the credit goes to Claudia Gray. Her writing is amazing. This is someone who understands Star Wars, is a fan, gets it, knows all these little things to throw in there to where it feels like, oh yeah, I'm enriched in the world. It is and it's not getting enough press at all. People do not know about this book.
It was completely
left
covered
out.
over.
Nobody knew what it was. Pick up this book. Get this book. It is great so far. I hope that it finishes. From what I'm hearing, people saying that it finishes great. I can't wait to finish it. That's one of the reasons I want to get the hell out of here. I want to finish reading the book. It is amazing. Check it out. And after you do, tweet at Claudia Gray and let her know that that you read it, because she's pretty responsive on Twitter and she should be getting the love. But I'll talk about it more when I finish it. All right, Mark, what's next?
It's time to play with Legos, everybody. On the new Lego website, there are 7 Lego commercials, which could give us some hints about possible sequences from The Force Awakens. I had a chance to check out some of the Lego sets at Force Friday when I was at Target, and the sets include Poe's X-Wing, which is awesome, Kylo's Command Shuttle, the Millennium Falcon, the First Order Transporter, Rey's Speeder, the First Order Snow Speeder, and a First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter that has a crew of 2 with the rear-facing gunner position. Christian, I have not watched these Lego commercials. I am concerned about potential spoilers for The Force Awakens. Did you venture to the website?
No, I avoided it as well too because of the spoilers. From what I hear, it doesn't really give away too much. And I love what Lego's doing with all this stuff too, and I love how they're a part of Star Wars now. But John, did you check out the commercials? Did you stayed away too? Okay,
but I did check out the Legos, and they were awesome.
Okay, so we are running out of time, but I do want to get to a few Twitter questions. So this is the point of the show where you guys send in your Twitter questions. You do it every week. You hashtag Collider Jedi Council. We go through them. We choose them. We talk about them. Mark, what is first?
First up, let's go ahead and get it on the big screen here. Any minute now. Stay on target. Bobby Bates writes, I'm hearing rumors that Max von Sydow is Boba Fett. Christian, I'm pretty sure you just answered that question from Aftermath.
I don't think that that's the case. I think it's a better shot that he's this character from Aftermath. Now, where this rumor stems from is because in Aftermath, spoiler, they pretty much tell you that they find Boba Fett's armor, and it's in Tatooine, and that the Jawas have found it, and it's damaged. So it means he got out.
Oh, so that's pretty huge,
yeah,
right?
But they don't ever say Boba Fett, but they put Mandalorian armor. It's on Tatooine, damaged. So that's a pretty big thing. Now, the rumor is that there's been rumors that Max von Sydow might be some kind of cyborg, or he might be trying to recoup from the Sarlacc damages. It's a pretty interesting rumor, and I actually remember being on this show a while ago thinking that he could be an old Boba Fett, maybe. Doesn't really necessarily line up to the prequels as far as casting, but I think it's more Sinjir than Boba Fett. John, any shot he's Boba Fett?
It's a very interesting theory, one that I don't subscribe to myself, but it's got some it's got some weight behind it. Like you could see them going that way. I don't know that I remember Boba Fett being that tall.
Right.
But let's just see
I
what
think
happens.
it'd be awesome if it was, but it sounds like this book, Aftermath, where you have your top 2 competitors to be Max von Sydow's role, is either the tall man or Boba Fett. I'd be on board for either.
All right, what's next?
James writes, many fans think that Patrick Covey writes, what is your theory on how the new merchandise has tied into the movie since Force Friday?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what John said before. It just we'll see once the movie comes out.
Yeah.
He's as he touches the Star-Lord. It's either yes or no. But I think that in general we have gotten some cool tidbits here and there.
I don't learn. It's one of my issues.
So we don't learn. That's true. That's true, Star-Lord. So I think that's pretty much we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
Luke, right, good name. Which character are you most excited for in The Force Awakens? Mine is Captain Phasma. No, Christian, you are not allowed to say Plagueis.
Okay, I'll say Snoke. Does that count? Snoke to me, who eventually might turn into someone that I'm not allowed to mention, but Snoke in general. Who is he? You talk about shrouded in mystery.
Yeah.
Who is he? And it's Andy Serkis. You know he's going to deliver. Hands down, Snoke. Favorite character of all time is Palpatine. This is the new Palpatine. Snoke.
I'm going to go with... I don't like going with the popular answer, but it's Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked to find out more about this dude that we're getting so much of, so I got to go with that one.
Old school, I'm going to give the slight edge to Luke Skywalker over my boy R2-D2, and new school, definitely Finn. Can't wait to see what that is.
Okay, next.
Tristan Shields writes, do you think there will be less secrecy around Episode 8 rather than The Force Awakens?
John, what do you think about this one?
Yeah.
You think there'll be less?
Yeah, there will be less. As a matter of fact, I've been told that... I want to be careful here. I've been told that, for instance, I was not, damn you, Disney, I was not invited to a set visit for Star Wars Episode 7. But I think I'm getting invited to a set visit for Star Wars Episode 8. I think...
Do you need a ride at the airport? Or
JJ...
You just want to fly your plane?
JJ is very notoriously secretive about his sets, and that's understandable. Now we're going to get into a Rian Johnson movie. I think we're going to see a little bit more openness. But remember, too, it's a little bit more understandable. This is the first movie of the trilogy. So once we get into the trilogy, I think the need for real tight-lips secrecy, other than big plot twists or whatever, I think becomes loosened up a little bit, and I think we're going to see it be a bit looser.
Yeah, a lot of the secrecy is based around the characters and what their motivations are. You're going to get that with The Force Awakens. There will be a few new characters, maybe one female in particular that figures prominently into Episode 8, but you're going to know what the landscape is more. So you will have to stay away from major spoilers, like if Han survives Episode 7, and maybe if he dies in Episode 8, you don't want to know that going in. But I think as far as the landscape, we're going to have a pretty good idea what that looks like.
Yeah, I agree. What's next?
James writes, many fans think that Han is going to bite the dust, Christian. Do you think Chewie is also going to kick the bucket by Episode 9?
You don't kill the family dog. You just don't do it.
You don't kill the walking carpet either. I don't think it's going to happen.
Kill him.
Oh, yeah, he dies.
No way.
He dies,
You think so?
not in Episode 7, maybe not even in Episode 8. But I think by the end of Episode 9, I think Chewbacca dies. As a matter of fact, I will go out on a limb and say by the end of Episode 9, I think all of our original cast are gone.
Do you want to bet $1,000?
Yeah, and a pizza?
Maybe.
Yeah. What do you think? You think Chewie's gone?
No.
You think he'll make it through?
Yeah,
all the
of
way?
course he's
I
gonna
think
make it.
Chewie's going to make it all the way through. All right, next.
I think they're all going to survive, right? Justin AOT writes, do you think Finn is a relative of Obi-Wan or maybe Mace Windu? He has no last name for a reason.
I'm on John's side with this too. No, give him a new name. I don't need him to be, because it's more so, I don't mind if Kylo Ren or Rey is a Skywalker or a Solo that fits in. Don't make the new black character of the series has to be a Windu or has to be a Kylo.
Especially when Windu was supposed to be celibate.
Right. It's like none of these Jedis listen. Obi-Wan didn't listen. Anakin listened. No one listened. Everyone went out and had a
Didn't
religion.
Obi-Wan?
No, in the Clone Wars, he Sabine.
Oh.
Yeah, not Sabine, but Satine
Yep.
was the one that he was into for the Mandalorians. But anyway, I don't need him to be related. Will I hate it? No, but I don't need it.
I really don't
You
care
don't
either way.
All right, John.
Oh, you know how I feel about it.
Okay. Next.
Ryan Keefe writes, could the Knights of Ren be the Jedi hunters that were rumored to be in The Force Awakens about a year ago?
100%. I absolutely think that that's exactly what they are, and I think that one of those descriptions on the toys or whatever it was to where there's a mission. There's an absolute mission for Kylo Ren to wipe them all out, just the way that Vader did. the Jedi. He's taken them all out, and I think that's as Luke built up new Jedi. By the way, this is one of the things that was released in one of those younger novels, that Luke did go off to build a new Jedi temple and restore the Jedi Knights. I think he restored some. I think he trained some, and I think that Kylo Ren and these guys have been hunting them down.
It makes sense. It fits. I wouldn't see any reason not to believe it.
I really don't. I think they're a softball team. They're 8 men, and they're looking for one more guy to play.
All right. How many were one left? I think so.
Yes. David writes, the First Order Assault Walker looks a lot like the clone ATRT. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty similar. I think a lot of the stuff that we see is going to look similar from the old designs because it
makes sense. There's a lineage here. I mean, look at the Stormtrooper outfits. I mean, it just makes sense that the equipment they used would also just be slightly evolved further on. So I'm no surprise.
And they're also fans of the Empire. Yeah. It's like you want to base a lot of stuff on what came before that inspired you to be evil.
All right, that's it. That's the episode of Jedi Council today. I'd like to thank the council that joined me today. Mark 2D2 himself, Mark Ellis. Where can the good people find you?
This weekend, I'll be at the Syracuse Funny Bone Friday through Sunday. We just added the Sunday show, so check that one out. And on Twitter, at 5150Ellis.
Obi-Wan Kenobi and Star-Lord, where can you guys do your dual comedy act?
You can find me on Facebook and on Twitter, simply at John Campia. Of course, Monday through Friday on Movie Talk. And keep your eye open for my new novel, The Pride. You can go over to Kickstarter right now, search for The Pride, and you can reserve your early copy now and support the book at the same time.
And me, I'm Christian Harloff, a.k.a. Darth Harloff, and you can find me at Christian Harloff on both Twitter and Instagram. And Mark and I are finally in our battle of the Ultimate Schmodown. It goes down tonight. We're playing Team Nerdist, Jessica Chobot, and Dan Casey. It goes down tonight. Make sure you go check that out on Schmoes.
How are we going to do, Starkiller?
Put the guns down and step away from the tree and raccoon.
That made no sense, Starkiller. Starkiller, Star-Lord.
Star-Lord.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure that you keep on Twitter. # Collider Jedi Council. Get questions in there. And for the whole council, may the Force be with you.